Today, we're going to be talking about optimizing hotel operations with IoT solutions. This is the first time that you have joined one of our webinars. My name's Eloise. I am your host for today, and I'm the editor of Boutique Hotel News. And we're an online multimedia publication which covers the global boutique, lifestyle, and luxury hotel industries. As you can see from your screens, we have two sponsors for today's episode. First of which, and our series sponsor, which is Agilysys, a cloud-based hospitality software company. And we have Paul Finch on the call today to provide a short introduction. So Paul, this is my moment to hand over to yourself, and welcome.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Eloise, and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining today's webinar. I'd just like to say a few words, a bit of a background to Agilysys and setting the scene, I hope, for today. Agilysys is delighted to be the sponsor of this webinar. So, as a company that is 100% focused on technology within the hospitality industry, Agilysys has been a leader in the debate on how powerful data can be and will be in helping hotels advance their guest experiences and optimizing their own operations. We should all remember that technology touches all parts of our lives, and as a hotel guest, we increasingly expect the same or even better technological experiences than we have in our own homes. So the potential for a hotel, we feel, is enormous through the sensing and collecting of data that can enable greater guest personalization, the automation of processes and tasks to make operations more efficient, and perhaps the biggest potential, and the one closest to Agilysys' heart, is the ability through data to increasingly monetize the guest and drive up revenue beyond the room. So again, we're delighted to be sponsoring this fascinating topic this afternoon, and I very much look forward to listening to the debate, which I hope you all enjoy. So thank you, and back to you, Eloise.
Thanks a lot, Paul. And further details about Agilysys, including some contact details, have been popped into the chat. I would encourage you to connect and find out more. Secondly, on to Ruckus, our episode sponsor, and Ruckus is a provider of wired and wireless networking equipment. And today we have a short video to play for you.
Ruckus solutions deliver operational efficiencies that are crucial for maintaining profitability and enhancing guest satisfaction. Improving staff safety and inventory management with location tracking and panic button solutions. Boosting employee efficiency to maximize time utilization for enhanced customer service. Every hotel system operating seamlessly under a single network for unified workflows and simplified management. Ruckus solutions empower hospitality businesses to reduce their environmental footprint, conserve resources, and contribute to a more sustainable future. Reducing energy costs with IoT-enabled thermostats for sustainability, and enabling remote monitoring and control of building systems and equipment. Designed to support current and future standards, protocols, and technologies, all fully backed by the expertise and support of a leader in hospitality solutions. Optimize every hotel with always-on Wi-Fi, smart technology, service efficiency, and customer loyalty, and sharing their experiences with others, so you can improve occupancy rates, RevPAR, and guest satisfaction scores. It's time to differentiate your property, minimize costs, and drive revenue performance. Unlock the future of hospitality with Ruckus Solutions.
And once again, further details about Ruckus have been popped into the chat, including some contact details for you. Let's meet our speakers for today, and to segue nicely from one video right into a physical human person, I'm going to ask Stephen to lead the introductions first. So Stephen, over to yourself, please.
Thank you, Eloise. My name is Stephen Bronken. I'm the head of global hospitality here at Ruckus Networks. I've been in hospitality for, excuse me, for over 17 years. and have been selling Ruckus solutions and providing those solutions to clients in hospitality essentially ever since. So of course, Ruckus is the leading manufacturer of wired and wireless network equipment for the industry. We've always been known for our excellent products, our excellent Wi-Fi, and our excellent networking. Of course, now we're expanding even further beyond that, branching into IoT, into cloud management, into AI, and into really getting into further the world of hospitality and connecting with all those different systems through common APIs and standard product protocols. So really, really happy to be here. Looking forward to an excellent discussion and really trying to, spread the gospel of fantastic Wi-Fi that Ruckus Networks provides.
Thank you, Stephen. And Vibhu, over to yourself, please. Welcome.
Thanks, Eloise. Vibhu Gaind from RBH Hospitality Management. We are a UK-based hospitality management company, and we operate just over 50 hotels across the UK. I look after all things technology and information systems for the group, and we work with multiple vendors, including Ruckus, for our networks, IoT solutions, and for our technology setups across the portfolio. I'm really happy to be here on this webinar with you.
Super. Nice to have you, Vibhu. KD, I can see you next on my screen. Welcome, and over to you.
Thank you, Eloise. Hello, everyone. My name is Kadi Saadlo, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Hotel Buddy. I'm an ex-hotelier with more than 17 years of experience in the hospitality industry. And Hotel Buddy is a self-service solution for independent hotels and hotel groups. And we provide the hotels with a web-based solution that enables them to digitalize their guest journey. So their guests can check in online, order services, chat with the hotel staff, open hotel room doors, check out, cast their mobile phones to the hotel TV, and much more. And we utilize IoT technology that enables us to open the hotel room doors without the need for the guests to download an app. So great to be here.
Thank you, KD. And last but not least, Sam, over to you and welcome.
Hello, I'm Sam Schuurkes. I'm co-founder of City Hub, which is a revolutionary hotel concept. Actually, we kind of fill in the gap between hotels and hostels. So we have our own pods, which we call Hub, which we developed, and we have shared bathrooms. So we're kind of in between there, and it's a very luxury experience. At the same time, we also built a lot of high-tech solutions to make the whole experience automated and offer extra guest experience by city hosts who are, let's say, our reception. We have currently 3 hotels in Europe, and we're rolling out. And at this moment, 3 other hotels are on the go, and we hope to reach 10 hotels in the next 4 years. So let's see where we're going to go.
Best of luck, Sam, and great to have you here. And I will add that all the panelist LinkedIn profiles have been popped into the chat. I do encourage you all to connect and carry on this conversation after today's webinar has finished. To provide a very quick overview of how today's session is going to run, we'll spend around 45 minutes chatting with our panelists today, followed by some time to take any questions from the floor. So please submit any questions for our speakers using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screens, and I will get round to asking those where appropriate. And a reminder that today's session is being recorded, and everybody that has registered will receive a copy of that recording within 2 days' time. To provide some background to today's conversation, according to Starfleet Research, which is a survey that came out last month, I believe, 282 hotels and resorts, which is 76% of the survey group, have implemented IoT technology for smart guest engagement and security systems. Additionally, there is a growing trend in sustainability solutions that use IoT technology, with almost 2/3 of hotels having deployed energy management solutions, connected lighting, and water monitoring applications to improve energy efficiency and reduce waste. The second headline on your screen about how IoT upgrades are the smart way to drive profitability. This headline is taken from a research paper by the International Data Corporation, which predicts that by 2027, 55% of hospitality and travel organizations will invest in AI and or IoT-powered devices to reduce waste by 20% and lower costs by 15%. And the anticipated gains are so substantial that by 2029, nearly half of hospitality organizations are expected to earmark as much as 25% of their IT budgets for automation of services and processes, aiming to increase efficiency by 85%. On the next slide, just to show the worth of the sector when it comes to smart hospitality, a report from the SNS Insider projects that the smart hospitality market is anticipated to increase at a compound annual growth rate of 30% from 2024, so from this year to 2031. And that's expected to reach a US dollar 143.16 billion by 2031. And North America is the leading market of smart hospitality, and it is expected to hold that position throughout the forecast period. Now, what are the key drivers that's spurring this growth? 3 points that I want to make, all taken from this SNS Insider report. Number one, increasing 5G adoption in the hospitality industry. Second, increasing consumer desire for guest-focused, hyper-connected personalization and real-time tailored experiences, both of which, to our third point, which is leading to interest in IoT devices and demand for hospitality software and services, all of which are balanced against the need to lower operational expenses. A lot to digest, but stay tuned as we're going to dive into this a lot deeper whilst we talk about optimizing hotel operations. And I want to kick off with a question to Vibhu, if I may. I would like to learn about very specific, concrete examples of how RBH is or has utilized IoT solutions at its properties.
Okay. So, Eloise, we at RBH work across multi-brand properties. So we work with global brands like IHG, Hilton, Marriott, Wyndham, and Accor as well. And we work with all these brands, and we have put in common platforms, which we're starting off with. The first one is probably the in-room energy management. We have been in the second year of the rollout at the moment. And it is basically replicating what the sensors technology with IoT sensors in the bedrooms to look at occupancy levels, to then look at the physical presence in the bedroom. And that in turn controls the lighting, the air conditioning, any appliances in the bedroom, including the TVs. And that allows us to do some significant inroads towards our ESG policy. So it really helps our environmental part of the ESG conviction. And in the first year alone, at one of the examples, Crown Plaza Docklands, in the first year alone, we have had a savings just over 50K by deploying that technology, and that's British pounds. So that's the first example, and we are in the rollout phase of that. The second one, which we have started a very good pilot on, is to actually have reception-less hotels. So we have the Coroner Hotel in London, where we have eliminated the need for the traditional reception desk, and that has been enabled entirely because of the IoT solutions that we have in the hotel, which is direct room check-in. It has pods and a kiosk-based solution for international travels who potentially might not have access to the internet during the travels. And that covers a lot of kind of resource requirement, really reduces in that scenario. And it helps that our associates at the hotel can then actually engage in meaningful guest service instead of hunkering down over a PC, checking in and doing the transactional part of guest service. It just allows the team to do more in terms of meaningful guest service. And that is probably the two prime examples. After that, we have also utilized or starting to utilize a lot of the IoT technology in our kind of F&B areas when it comes to stock monitoring, stock control. Gone are the days when you're doing manual stock counts. Those things are starting to come through as well. And in our food preparation area, just the management of temperature in the refrigeration area, within the cooking range, being able to put the extracts on and off depending on what's being cooked and what the temperature in the entire kitchen area is. And those are the prime examples, which are kind of real life examples where we are seeing IoT really coming to maturity.
And can you talk to me, Vibhu, about the measurable impact that adding these solutions into said properties, what impact that is having on not just efficiency? You highlighted that your staff members are now able to interact and engage more with guests, but also cost savings.
Cost savings, I think predominantly it's the cost of utilities. I think everybody on this call would be aware utilities costs have really skyrocketed over the last 2 years, 2.5 years. And that's the biggest saving. If you look at the commercial return on investment, it's the saving on utilities that is the biggest driver. And after that, it comes down to a measurable savings in the region of a adopted hotel, a mid-scale hotel, let's say 100 bedrooms or more. You would be looking to save anything in the region of between 55 to 60K in the first year alone, and if you look at one of our examples, over a 10-year period, we have worked out you would be saving. The big savings come at the onset when the solution gets delivered, and then they kind of plateau off, and you've got the situation in place, you've got the major savings made. Then you're looking at over a 10-year period, you're easily touching the 400K mark in savings when all the systems adopted into that environment. And it depends on the scale. If you're having a hotel operation that has leisure, spa, the savings are huge. And then in the smaller hotel, which is let's say 60, 70 bedroom with very limited F&B, there's a reduced saving, but there's still a big saving as a number.
Thanks, Vibhu. Same question to Sem, actually, because I understand that CityHub has actually built its brand around the technology. It's a slightly different model to RBH as a third-party management company. So Sem, can you provide examples of what IoT features you're using? And the follow-up question on what impact is that having on efficiency and cost savings?
Yeah, I think that we implemented definitely a lot of those solutions. In its core, CityHub is already a concept that was developed to be kind of sustainable, or we're super efficient in space. And that's how we already save the most cost. We actually have 83% lower CO2 emissions than the average hotel in Europe. So it's already in its core built like that. But so yeah, we have a number of systems. Some are more experience related and others are more cost drivers also. We have our own bar system, which is connected to a wristband. So people, when they check in, they activate their wristband, which is connected to our bar. There's a draft beer, there's coffee, it's fully decorated as a normal bar, but there's no bartender. You do it yourself, and it's connected to the PMS system, and automatically everything is being charged on the account, which of course saves a lot on staff, because there is actually a bar there. It fully experiences as a whole bar, but actually it's not. There's just a self-service system, but in experience. We built our own check-in kiosk, which is also connected to our city host, which is actually our reception, let's say. So the moment people check in, we get the personalized data, and the host sees that and can automatically interact personalized. So instead of creating a less personal experience, the check-in actually makes it, enables us to have a more personal interaction with the guest. And this, of course, also saves a lot on staff, but at the same time, it creates an experience. And then we have our own app, in which the app is 24-hour. The guests are 24-hour connected to the city hosts, so they can ask them all kinds of questions. So there's no a reception in a sense that only on check-in and check-out or whenever a guest arrives there physically can be helped. No, they're actually, it's a continuous process right now. So it's even the moment they make a reservation, and from that moment on, they can constantly interact with our city hosts. And this app also is the control of the room. So in our new hotel, also for the temperature control and the lights controls, and we have a special experience. So we have like a fully addressable LED lighting system, so we can change the atmosphere in the hub with different colors, different atmosphere. We have, like, for example, a northern light, and then next hotel is going to be in Iceland, so then we can also artificially show it in the room. Well, this of course reduces the construction cost, because instead of putting a panel in every room, you can just do it once and then do it for all hotels at the same time. And this also makes sure that that you can update it when you want to improve the experience. You don't have to actually physically update any systems there. So that makes it a lot easier. And yeah, I think that our next step actually is that everything is going to be in the cloud. So we're going to have one VPN for all hotels. I guess that's something that also for systems like Ruckus can work well with, especially kind of modern Wi-Fi systems. They allow that, and then we won't have a server anymore. So all our systems will be in the cloud, connected to one network in all hotels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's basically it.
There's definitely a conversation to be had here around investment, because you've developed some of these solutions yourself, Sem, rather than outsourcing and partnered with what's already out there in the market. So with that in mind, how are you measuring the impact on such things as efficiency and cost savings when you've taken that upfront investment to developing the tech yourself?
Yeah, like in a way, of course, we developed it all as soon as we started. So there's no comparison to another theoretical version of City Hub. But yeah, of course, we're saving a lot on staff. Like our hotel in Copenhagen has 215 rooms and is run basically one person in the reception. And in busy times, we have a second. But so the costs are definitely automatically just much lower. Yeah,
Thanks.
I think that's the most important part of this. Yeah. So the staff cost, of course we measure, for example, how many people we use per guest stay. But yeah, so all those things are measured. But yeah, in the end, of course, IT development costs are not just to build it once. You have to continuously update the software. So that's definitely a cost that you have to take into account. But not only that, also the hardware in the systems also gets outdated, like the tablet or the QR reader or all those kind of things. So those are also kind of investments you have to take into account every couple of years if you want to keep the systems updated. Mm-hmm. So we do know that we have extra cost there, but yeah, so far it seems that it's still outweighing the staff cost mostly, and of course creating a unique experience, which is also very important.
Thanks, Sam. Stephen, has there been any tools, products, features, capabilities that has been missed so far in our conversation when it comes to looking at how hotels are utilizing IoT? So what we're talking about here is tracking and collecting data, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is, as both Vibhu and Sam have mentioned, door locks, of course, is very, very key for access control, but also the other side of that is loss prevention, right? I mean, keeping the door lock, disabling that card after 3 uses, for example, against any doors to prevent it from actually opening up the correct door and having the wrong person have access to that room. That's always important. Thermostats, energy management, as Vibhu mentioned, as well as Sam, and lighting, great things, great applications of IoT. And these are the kind of the low-hanging fruit, so to speak, for IoT these days, to make sure that you can have a great impact on your property, increasing operational efficiencies, reducing costs, etc. But there's also other things, that we're working on. IoT, of course, is evolving, right? So it's always changing. There's new devices coming along all the time. One of the latest ones, of course, that we stumbled across was smoke and vape detectors. Having a guest come into a hotel room and either use vape or smoke, and having the costly remediation of cleaning that room afterwards. Something like that can really play an impact in the guest room and can be reduced from smoke and vape detectors. Just having something in that room to let people know that, somebody is maybe smoking something that they shouldn't be in that room, that's going to have a skunky flavor afterwards, that they need to clean that room right away, right? And be able to still get to that guest and apply those charges while the guest is there versus after they've left and they've got no connection with them. Of course, the other one is employee safety buttons, right? Of course, here in North America, there's a large, many states, many provinces have laws with employee safety buttons, making sure that, if an employee does need assistance, does need help, that the staff can get to them right away. That's obviously a very large component of this as well. And then, we're seeing other things where, we've got common connections to APIs and so forth like that, where people can really build through Ruckus Networks as the infrastructure, can connect to these other devices like casting, like back of house, like, room service and ordering and doing different things like that. So really IoT is always evolving, and we're lucky because we're in the center of it all, right? Every application, every IoT device that's out there most commonly goes through the Wi-Fi and network infrastructure at that property. So we're seeing some great things.
On that note, I want to pick your brain around emerging tech that perhaps excites you. And I want to talk specifically around any emerging IoT technologies that you believe, Stephen, will have a significant impact on hotel operations in the near future. What are you seeing? What do you believe in?
Well, I mean, one of the most talked about items, of course, is virtual reality. You have all these devices which are now being used now more for business, the AI, the augmented reality goggles and so forth like that are coming out, for use for gaming or for business, etc. When you combine those with the either the work or leisure traveler, they require an enormous amount of data, and they require an enormous amount of bandwidth to keep going. So these devices, of course, we're going to see them more and more, just as we've seen a rise of gaming devices for the longer term stay hotels in the past. We're going to see augmented reality pick up, and you're going to need to have the right infrastructure at your property to support these devices. If you've got an older network, your guests aren't going to be happy because they can't get access to the quality of the stream that they're looking for across these devices. It's really about making sure that your infrastructure is sound to be able to support everything. When you're looking at Wi-Fi 7, etc., and the speeds that are required or available through that, there's an enormous amount of possibility, and I think we're going to see that even pick up quicker over the next several years because of the amount of bandwidth that's available to these edge devices. Another one, of course, is AI, right? I mean, Ruckus ourselves, we have AI embedded in our Ruckus WAN gateway, which we're providing to the hotel. That can actually offload a ton of operational costs and so forth like that by having AI answer the questions on the chatbot, right? That can have AI be available to help the guests, to help analyze your usage, to help analyze trends, to help reduce even issues with Wi-Fi across your property. So AI is going to be the next one that's driving in terms of technology as well. And that requires, not only bandwidth, of course, but it requires a lot of kind of hyper localization. So that, when you're a guest in a room and you're asking where's the closest pizza joint, it actually provides you with a location that's nearby versus one that's nearby the cloud, the office where the cloud is located at, right? It's there's a lot of growth in that market as well.
Mm-hmm. I want to bring Katie into the conversation here because I would imagine that there are going to be many hoteliers or perhaps asset managers that are listening into this webinar now who want to embark on this journey, integrating and deploying new tech, or they're already on that journey and they are facing quite a few challenges because a lot of hotels use legacy systems. So, Katie, what best practices can hoteliers use to ensure that that is a smooth integration process?
Thank you very much for this question. Yes, indeed. Although what we see globally is that more and more hotels today are switching over to cloud-based solutions and cloud-based PMS systems. There's still a fair amount of partners, and also in our portfolio, who are still kind of stuck with their old legacy system. Eventually, obviously, they will also have to move, and there are, you know, legacy systems coming out with cloud-based solutions and so on. From our side, we very carefully select our integration partners. We do not integrate with all the PMSs, and sometimes, unfortunately, we have to say no to hotels. Because we want to ensure that the solution is working. If the customer chooses our solution, we want to make sure that everything is working, then they are buying the product, and they are paying for the product that actually works. And also there is a lot of overheads when it comes to the integration. The integrations themselves are quite challenging, time consuming, as well as the, you know, the later upkeep and monitoring and updating the solution to make sure it continues to work. Now, we take very great pride in our onboarding process with the hotels. So when a hotel signs up with Hotel Buddy, we actually have multiple onboarding sessions with the hotel, with different stakeholders, and we really map out and kind of like get the understanding of the current hotel processes. And we build our solution around the customer. So we don't expect the customer just to adopt kind of, you know, new ways of working, because at the end of the day, it is kind of, you know, a change that we bring to the organization. It's going to be new for the teams. It's going to be new for their customers. And I would really encourage the hotels, when you go and choose to implement a new technology, then do work together with your technology partner. At the end of the day, you are partners. This is a relationship. So it cannot be just like, you know, one-sided, that the technology partner is supposed to just bring in the technology and it miraculously starts working. Like, both parties need to work to make sure that, you know, it is satisfying and long-lasting relationship. Yeah, this is one of my, I would say, the best suggestions. Choose your partners carefully, and then put in the work and hours. And I think it also helps if the hotel has a designated like a project team or a project manager when they implement the new technology, because there is nothing worse than like kind of shared responsibility, and like then at the end no one is responsible, and they cannot roll out the solution the way they would like it.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Katie. Vibhu, you earlier provided 3 examples. So I think F&B, reception, and sort of in-room examples. Did you run into any challenges when you were adding or integrating these solutions into your existing operations and management processes?
Yeah, thanks for that, Eloise. Firstly, I'm very envious of Sem's position, where it's a brand new portfolio that he's running, you know, because these technologies are so easy to adapt when you're building from the ground up. That's the best position to be in, when you can adopt the solutions, especially with IoT, in the very outset of the building stages. The biggest challenge that probably comes out is the limitation of the legacy systems and the limitations of the infrastructure that we have in the Wi-Fi. You know, and prime examples being door locking. A door locking solution can easily have a lifespan of 20-25 years. It's a huge investment for a hotel to undertake to replace a door locking solution, especially if it's still kind of fit for purpose, but it's not ready for today's technology. So those are the challenges that we are kind of eliminating. And as the investment is coming back after a few tough years, as the investment is truly back into hotels, we are now starting to see a refresh of those legacy systems, refresh of the infrastructure, what we are doing with the Wi-Fi, with the solutioning that is going into it. Those were the challenges that are really kind of holding us back. The solutions exist. We partner up with various companies that have solutions around it. It's just you can only do so much at a given time, and everything is a priority. Everything is the right approach. Everything kind of takes us towards our ESG goals, towards our commercial payback on these solutions. It's what do you prioritize? So we as an organization have taken the view that it has to guest centric. It has to impact the guest in meaningful way. It has to make a decent, significant saving and kind of in the revenue or generate revenue as well. But the main challenges are around legacy systems, initial high cost of adoption. I think over the last year, there has starting to be a decline in kind of the costs that were needed. There are more kind of P&L options available where you don't have to do a huge investment capital wise. So those challenges are starting to go away now. And I think the next one is probably around data security and privacy. There's a lot of thought process that has to be put in when you're putting in IoT solutions. It's collecting a huge amount of data off your network. Who's looking after it? How are you managing it? How secure are you with those data policies? Those are probably typically the 3 or 4 items that have been the most challenging for us.
Mm-hmm. Stephen, can I ask you to build on top of this and come at it from a different perspective here and talk us through the considerations that will be essential for hoteliers when they're looking at their infrastructure, their tech stack and their network, when they are looking at trialing new IoT solutions, either be it at a smaller level or even large scale projects. Where would you advise hoteliers to start?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. With so many different applications on the market today, it's really as I mentioned, a great question. The biggest thing I guess I would start with is looking at the infrastructure, right? And I know that of course we're a network infrastructure company, so that's really key to us. But if you don't have the proper foundation to support any of those IoT devices, really you've got to go back and start from the ground up, right? So I guess the first thing I'd look at is, what is the wiring in your building? What is the capacity of that wiring? Are you looking at, Cat6 lines, which would be great? Are you looking at GPON network, something like that for increased capacity? And then the switching, of course, after that, right? What is the capacity of those switches? And then one step back, looking at the capacity of the Wi-Fi devices. Do your Wi-Fi devices have BLE, Bluetooth, and beaconing built into them? That's key. If you don't, then you need a BLE, Bluetooth, beaconing capable Wi-Fi device in your room. Then we look at positioning. Where are you going to position that AP? There have been many, many cases where the AP has been deployed too far away from the door lock. And that creates a strain from the actual door lock because it has to almost push itself out for the connection to connect to the BLE or the beaconing, and it drains its batteries. So then you're continuously replacing batteries, which doesn't really increase your operational efficiency if you're always, supporting those door locks and so forth, right? So that's, of course, a huge component is, what are you looking to do? How are you looking to accomplish it? What technology are you looking at using? And that's where we rely on, our network of partners and resellers to kind of use best practices to work as almost IT consultants, so to speak, to help you pick the right solution that they know and trust, and to deploy it in a way that is going to be best for you and your property. Then we look at, of course, once we have that infrastructure down, and we know what you're looking to deploy, what are your means to success, right? How can we create this in perhaps a small POC, proof of concept? So we've done proof of concepts, whether it be, in a number of hotel rooms, where we have the capability of temporarily turning on either IoT or turning on a Ruckus One capacity for that property, so they can test it, trial it for a limited time before they actually go ahead and pull the trigger on it. And we've also done full POCs within hotel deployments themselves. We've got a great POC running in North America that with IoT door locks, and it essentially has increased again operational efficiency from the property, but it's also just reduced the amount of time that they spend supporting it. That battery item that I mentioned earlier, they can actually get notifications a week before the battery dies on the specific door lock, so that they're not replacing floors at a time of batteries, because that's the cycle that they think. They're replacing a door at a time, right? Which increases, increases efficiencies, but reduces the amount of time that they're spent, doing operational items, right? Which is really, really key. So it's really large part of that, but there's also another emerging trend, which is, kind of green capabilities as well. Obviously, in a lot of the cases when our partners deploy Ruckus Wi-Fi networks, our APs are so powerful that we end up turning down the signal, turning down the power a little bit, right? Just so there's not too much SNR, signal to noise ratio, so it's not too loud of an environment for Wi-Fi. I mean, that's the power of Ruckus. But the other thing that we're actually doing is, in areas where maybe Wi-Fi isn't being utilized, say the conference area in the evening, let's say it's like in the late hours, for example. Let's say it's maybe occupancy is low and there's certain floors or areas of the property that are not really in use. We're actually investigating into ways that we can reduce the power on those access points, which will have a direct correlation to the property's power bill, right, and energy costs. So we're always exploring ways to to help the hospitality industry and our clients. We're purpose driven. We provide purpose driven networks, and hospitality is one of our key pillars that we do that for. So we're really striving to always be better for hospitality.
It's reassuring to know that you can start small and then scale up, like you mentioned, the proof of concept in one room compared to 200 rooms of your hotel.
Absolutely.
I want to rephrase my next question slightly to Katie. Boutique lifestyle luxury hotels, a lot of our audience members are going to be independent properties. They're probably going to be wondering how they can invest in and embrace innovative technologies whilst trying to balance the affordability of such an investment. How can hoteliers, those independent hoteliers, strike that balance?
Yeah, absolutely. You always have to understand the return on the investment, right? What we are seeing amongst our partners is actually that they are converting around 50 to 60% of their guests. So meaning that actually the majority of the hotel guests, if the digital solution is provided to them, they choose to check in digital way over the traditional way. Now, when we convert this into numbers, then let's take an example of a 100-room hotel, right? So with a yearly average occupancy of 80%, 50% conversion rates, our calculation shows that this hotel in average will save about 200 labor hours or reception working hours per month. So we are talking about saving 1 to 1.5 jobs just right there. In addition, the hotels, they can benefit from increased incremental revenue, which is coming from the extra service sales, the room upgrades. And one thing, of course, that is very hard to measure, but this is the increased customer satisfaction rates. As I think Vibhu and Sem both brought out, that by utilizing this kind of like digital self-service solution for the guests, it is actually not kind of taking them further away from the guests, but it actually helps them to personalize the guest journey and to offer a much better experience for the guest, because now all the mundane, these kind of non-value adding tasks are being digitalized and taken over by technology, and the humans that actually really make the difference in the hospitality industry do have the time to provide the nice service and to provide nice human interactions. And this is what really matters.
I think there's something to be said about upfront costs versus the revenue generating capabilities. I think maybe we need to pivot that conversation to as you've mentioned, look at what can be generated as a result of it, be it on the cost saving side, but also what can be produced as a result.
Another thing is that more and more hotels are adopting these technologies, and they are going ahead, and coming from the industry myself, I know how very competitive the hotels are and how important it is also not to kind of miss that train. So can you just imagine, you have two similar hotels on the same street. One of them is utilizing all these technologies. They have much higher increased profitability. They can take down their ADR, have much higher occupancy rates and so on. And you are just, losing behind of them. And, and not to mention the staff shortages that, of course, the whole industry is experiencing, regardless of the region.
Mm. We've just touched on there about sort of financial challenges and opportunities, and I want to bring Sem back into the conversation here, because we spoke off camera about your B Corp recent accreditation and how that is influencing or reshaping the relationship with your lender. And so I want to bring this back into an IoT smart hotel conversation here. But how are you quantifying the financial benefits of smart systems in terms of those operational cost savings, but more importantly, the value creation for stakeholders? And if you wouldn't mind talking us through the same conversation that we had.
Yeah, I think in this case, it's not so much about costs. It's more about, well, I guess whenever it comes to energy, it's both costs and the environment, right? They often go together a lot. So, and in this case, what you're talking about with the ABN AMRO, which is our bank that does most of our financing, after we got the B certification, which is a sustainability certification for companies that go an extra step, let's say, for that part. They came with a proposal basically to us saying we would like to give you 0.3%, I think, discount on your interest rate if you can show us an increase of the score in the coming 3 years. So and then that was a very interesting proposal. And then, of course, the measurement it becomes very important, which you already do for B Corp. I mean, usually these kind of sustainability certificates are a lot of measurements, like endless forms of measuring every little detail. But then values come out, and then you can clearly show a raise, let's say, in certain values in every aspect. And then automatically, of course, you have a financial benefit from that if there are partners and banks who are willing to do these kind of things.
Mm-hmm. And there's certainly, as Katie mentioned, the value creation for your guests as well. When you start to digitalize the guest experience and automate certain operational tasks or management systems, you're empowering the guest to almost create their own stay and experience whilst on your property.
Yeah, I think it's also like Vibhu said, that we are, of course, from the ground up built this way. So it's much easier for us. It's actually the only reason why it's even possible for us, I would say, to develop all these systems, because we can make them very lean. We've developed a concept that is very simple and lean. Like, we don't have a restaurant, for example. So there's a lot of things involved in making this for us possible. Mm-hmm. But I do think, of course, in a traditional hotel world, you'll probably have to rely much more on external partners and see if you can integrate them in the right way. That's the big challenge. But for us, it's easier to justify the cost of the development and the result it delivers.
Vibhu, I would like to bring you back in here, almost like a comparison, as I mentioned, of the two different sort of models from an operational side. How do you see RBH leveraging IoT advancements in the future? You mentioned a couple of standalone properties within the portfolio, but are you exploring any other possibilities, scenarios, tools to further optimize operations?
So I think we've touched during the course of this webinar, I think we've touched on most items that have kind of found its way into the industry. One of the unique situations we faced early on in this year was at one of our London properties. They hosted a e-gaming event at the property, and the event took something like 80 rooms at the hotel, and we suddenly realized our Wi-Fi is just not good enough, and we had to cable up the hotel and actually run temporary fiber cables into bedrooms to give these gamers opportunity. So I think the one thing that we have started to see as demand grows is these unique environments are starting to be created which use hotels as a temporary base, and hoteliers need to be ready for it. That's one area where IT is really coming into its prominence, better and more controlled data delivery, data usage at the guest levels, and for these specific, very, very unique situations where you have to cater to a very set segment of guests who will utilize a lot of your bandwidth coming to the hotel. So much so that you're overconsumed and you have to make them provisions. The key areas remain, it's a lot to do with AI, which is coming through. That is going to be a game changer, as I think everybody on this call has probably been in discussions or sat in panels or been in the room where it's the next iteration of the internet, right? It's going to change how we physically do business and how we operate our hotels, how we service our guests. Key things around automated check-in, check-out. It's nearly here. The technology exists. It's just the legacy systems that are stopping its true adoption. Smart rooms. We are starting to do that a lot better in our new build hotels. In our new build hotels, it's the starting point rather than afterthought. And then it's more about preventative maintenance in our legacy hotels, in our hotels that are a bit more aged as an asset set. IoT is really helping with the preventative maintenance. It's literally becoming predictive and more managed. As Steven said, you can target a door. You can know a door lock has a fault even before a guest goes up to that door. That's the kind of stuff that we are starting to see. Inventory management is another position in our busier F&B hotels. That's where we are starting to see a lot of inventory management systems going, which are all based on IoTs and the backups. And I think the next one is probably around housekeeping and maintenance, personalization, and guest deliveries. How do you make it better at a five-star hotel? How do you make the service even more better and personalized so that when a guest reappears to stay in the hotel, it's exactly as they would have left it, right? It's giving that personalization to that degree. And those are probably the key things, Louise. Those are where we would like to see, better adoption ourselves and in the industry as well.
Super. Thank you, Vibhu. What a great note to end on. I always like to get out that crystal ball and take a look at what the future might hold and where the industry might be moving to. But I can see that we've got 4 minutes on the clock and I've still got some slides that I would like to run through. So I'm just going to say a very brief thank you to Vibhu, to Stephen, to Katie, and to Zem for their insights. And I will flag here that we're going to keep our webinar open at the end for an extra 2 minutes to allow our audience members time to follow up on any of the links that we have popped into the chat today, including the LinkedIn profiles of our speakers for you to ask your burning questions and to carry on that conversation. So to flag the next webinar in our series, we're taking a very short break over the summer, and we are going to be back on Monday, September the 9th for a discussion or a debate around ADRs can only go so far. So picking up on that revenue generating opportunities outside of the hotel rooms on properties. So we'd love to see you there, and you can register by clicking on the link that has been popped into the chat. And whilst we take a break over the summer, I would encourage all of you to take a look at our past webinar archives. They can be found on the Boutique Hotel News website. The link has also been popped into the chat. We have discussions on there from investment and finance to experiential hotelier to F&B, you name it. We've covered so much on there. We've been going for 4 years strong now, so there will be a topic there that entices or will align with most people that have been tuning in today. So do take the time. There's plenty of insights to be found there. And to flag an in-person event that we're hosting this September on the 18th and 19th of September here in London at King's Cross, the Urban Living Festival, which brings together all the hospitality and living asset classes under one roof. That's hotels, serviced apartments, short-term rentals, co-living, co-working, student housing, senior living. It's all going on. And once again, we'd love to see you there. Tickets are on sale and you can find out further information on the link that has been popped into the chat. Now, if you're keen to work with us, either across our digital webinars like today or our in-person events, please do get in touch. My colleague Piers, his details are on your screen and also in the chat. We would love to hear from you. And all that's left for me to say is thank you. So firstly, thank you to Stephen, to Vibhu, to KD and to Sem. Thank you to Agilisis and to Ruckus. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. I certainly have. And I very much look forward to seeing you once again back in September. Well, enjoy the rest of your afternoons and we'll see you all very soon. Take care.
Hello, we are International Hospitality Media, or IHM for short. IHM is the #1 brand to engage with decision makers in hospitality and real estate. Our 4 multimedia brands lead their respective sectors with breaking news, comments, trends and opinion across a variety of multimedia solutions. We provide an inspirational community to connect people through world-class events, webinars, podcasts, award schemes and much more. But let us share our story of who we are and what we do. Over 10 years ago, Piers and George had a light bulb moment to provide expert opinion, comments and low-cost digital content. And so they went on a journey over the past decade, creating media platforms to serve the hospitality and real estate industries. We now have an engaged audience with a reach of over 60,000 monthly visitors across our website, 48,000 of our email database across all the sectors, and over 67,000 across our social channels. Everything we do believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. We make things simple and very easy to work with us. And we're a friendly bunch too. We offer creative solutions to help you achieve your business goals. Read, watch, listen, meet with IHM. Contact us for a chat today. Just look at some of the brands we have worked with recently.